Welcome to the broadcast, my fruits. You join me on a day of excitement. I've got butterflies, and I want to remind you how lucky we are to be living through this last year, for those of us that enjoy the pomp and pageantry and magic that royalty brings. We had the Jubilee, we had the death of the late Elizabeth, the funeral, the King's accession, this majestic pause between accession and coronation. And in 1 month and 1 day's time, we will see the coronation before our very eyes. The first in modern history, the first in 70 years, and the third King Charles, following on from his role as the longest serving Prince of Wales, the longest serving heir apparent in history. This is a remarkable moment. It is all about to unfold. You are about to see the magic of a springtime coronation with everything that springtime inspires. It's even inspired my outfit today, following on from the revealing of the coronation invitation, and it made my spine tingle. We are going to go through this together because we are blessed and fortunate. For those who enjoy the theatre, the pomp and pageantry, who understand how royalty takes us out of the mundane and into the magical, that moment of alchemy that we see before us. Imagination, life is imagination, as they say in Barbie Girl. Life is your creation, and it's a stuff of dreams, and it makes me feel alive, and I know that it makes many of you feel alive. And so we're going to go through this together, and we've seen this revealing that came in tandem with a new photographic portrait of their Majesties taken last month in the Blue Drawing Room at Buckingham Palace. That was released. It was captured by Hugo Bernard. Really, really lovely. And alongside the photograph, Buckingham Palace is pleased to share the invitation for the coronation, which will be issued in due course a couple of weeks before the coronation, to over 2,000 guests who will form the congregation in Westminster Abbey. And look at it. Look at it. It has also been announced that 8 pages of honour have been chosen to attend their Majesties during the coronation service. Let's look at it together, my dears, and marvel, because I couldn't be more thrilled with what I see before me, the aesthetics of it. The coronation of their Majesties, King Charles III and Queen Camilla. By command of the King, the Earl Marshal is directed to invite all fruit basketeers to be present at the Abbey Church of Westminster on the 6th day of May, 2023. It was designed by Andrew Jameson. Didn't he do a fabulous job? Apparently, he was one of so many that put forth his ideas, his imaginative ideas, didn't think he had a catch chance in hell of getting anywhere, and he was plucked personally by King Charles. He said that he couldn't do anything for half an hour. He had to sit down and have a cup of coffee. Well, you could have poured yourself something a little bit stronger, my dear, maybe you're teetotal. However, he enjoyed that coffee, then came to terms with his fate as the illustrator. He is a heraldic artist and manuscript illustrator whose work is inspired by the chivalric themes of Arthurian legend. He's a brother of the Artworkers Guild, of which the King is an honorary member, and the original artwork you see was hand-painted in watercolour and gouache, and the design will be reproduced and printed on recycled card with gold foil detailing. Central to the design is the motif of the Green Man, and as soon as I saw that wonderful Green Man, I beamed. The excitement went off. It's as if they designed it just for me. You know, fruits, vegetables, my dear, the wonders of nature. It's all right up my street, and that's why I've tried to surround myself in wildflowers and greens and the colours of spring for you today. The Green Man is an ancient figure from British folklore, symbolic of spring and rebirth to celebrate the new reign, crowned in natural foliage. Isn't it joyful? Isn't it gay? He is formed of leaves of oak, ivy and hawthorn. Wonderful trees, my dear. You know that some of my closest friends and advisors are trees, and I hug them to death all the time. And I'm getting overwhelmed. Pass me the smelling salts, my dear. And the emblematic flowers of our beautiful kingdom, the rose, the shamrock, the thistle, and the humble daffodil. No sign of the humble leek. I'm afraid, Wales, you can only be represented once, and they've gone for the old daffs this time for their aesthetic qualities, but we will always remember the humble leek. The British wildflower meadows that we talked about yesterday, that they're going to be recreating and re-enhancing 100 British meadows in the King's honour. Well, they've been honoured too because they border this invitation. It features lily of the valley, cornflowers, wild strawberries, dog roses, bluebells, and a sprig of rosemary for remembrance, together with wildlife including a bee, a butterfly, a ladybird, a wren, and a robin. Flowers appear in groupings of 3, signifying the king becoming the 3rd monarch of his name. There is a lion, a unicorn, and a boar. These are taken from the coats of arms of the monarch and Her Majesty Camilla's father, Major Bruce Shand, and they are now enclosed by the Garter, following on from Camilla's instalment as a Royal Lady of the Order of the Garter last summer. Such whimsy, such gaiety, light-hearted, nothing too serious. Do you see how they have really pulled off a blinder? It is not taking itself too seriously, too stuffy, too deferential and old school, but it retains charm, traditional qualities, everything inspired by nature, everything inspired by Charles's personality himself. It has a light touch dripping in fruits, flowers and nature. It is right up my street, my dears. Throughout the coronation, their majesties will be attended by 4 pages of honour. Do you see how I'm wanting to prepare those of you who are unfamiliar and are joining in for the first time? And you're all welcome throughout the kingdom, the Commonwealth and the wide world. All those beautiful fruits out there that appreciate what we've got going on here in the kingdom. I'm laying this down so that when the time comes and you are watching the coronation in front of you, you will know what's happening, know who the players are, and you'll be familiar with the goings-on and the rituals. But these pages, these 4 pages of honour, will form part of the procession through the nave of Westminster Abbey. And now for the list of the pages of honour, which is very exciting, especially for His Royal Highness Prince George of Wales. Yes, I mean, it seems like an obvious choice, but no one was entirely sure because of his age, 9 years old. But we have Prince George of Wales. Next, we have Lord Oliver Cholmondeley. And at 13 years old, you know who his parents are, my dear. Remember those vile rumours? And we're not going to dwell on anything vile today. But, you know, those vile, stupid rumours that keep on being rehashed about William and Rose Hanbury. Well, Ollie Cholmondeley's mother is Rose Hanbury, who is, of course, the Marchioness of Cholmondeley. Married to David Cholmondeley, David and Sarah, wonderful people, wonderful friends of the family, nothing sinister going on, and that should be boldly illustrated, if it wasn't already, by the fact that their son Ollie is going to be a page of honour, together with another 13-year-old, Master Nicholas Berkeley. Master Nick is the grandson of a lady called Sarah Troughton. She is the Lord Lieutenant of Wiltshire, and in the 90s she was lady-in-waiting to the Duchess of Kent. She's a second cousin of the king via her maternal grandfather, who was a brother of the late Queen Mother. She is one of Queen Camilla's closest pals and one of her official companions, one of the Queen's companions that was selected last year. Before that she was a lady-in-waiting of sorts, but now her role is of a companion, and it's her grandson, Nicky, that's going to be attending as a page. And the 4th and final page for King Charles is Rafe Tolmash, who is another 13-year-old, and he is the son of a banker, actually the son of a very attractive couple, the Honourable Edward Tolmash and his wife Sophie. Edward is godson to King Charles, and Master Rafe's grandparents are very close friends with Charles and Camilla too. They are Tim and Czar. Lord Timothy Tolmash is the 5th Baron Tolmash, and his wife Alexandra is known, she goes by the name Czar Alexandra, and she's a garden designer of great note, and she is, this is all right up her street, and it's one of the reasons why she connects so very closely with Charles and Camilla, because of her fondness for getting the old welly boots on and getting down into the ditches and digging away, pruning the bushes, getting the wildflowers out. The family household is Helmingham Hall, where the family have been rooted for 500 years, and Czar lived there for 44 years and did wonderful things with the garden. You know, they have this bounty of a beautiful walled garden and various vegetable enterprises. How can I try and make all of that sound glamorous? Well, you know the beautiful results of these kind of stately homes. But she is indeed granny to young Master Rafe. Now on to Camilla's pages of honour, and I've got to confess to you, my fruits, I am such a sap. I know I'm a sap. You saw me blubbing away throughout the Jubilee events and when Elizabeth died, and this was the moment when I saw this information received about the coronations when tears sprang to my eyes. The Queen Consort's the Queen Consort's pages of honour will be Her Majesty's grandsons, Master Gus and Master Louis Lopez and Master Freddie Parker Bowles. Always makes me think of Freddie Eynsford Hill. Freddie Parker Bowles and Her Majesty's great-nephew, Master Arthur Elliot. There, I got through it without crying. I don't know why. It's something to do with Camilla. I think because I know how disparaged she's been when it's nobody's business but theirs, really, what goes on in private lives. You know, decades of disparagement. To see her soar as she is doing at the moment and winning hearts and minds simply through being a decent person, and even if you don't agree that she's a decent person, then getting on very diligently with her duty and her role and her support of our monarch, who would be a very different creature by now without her. Very different. Things, the outlook would not be sunny, I've got to tell you, and it's why I often ask you to keep Camilla in your prayers and thoughts. She's older than Charles, and we need her hanging around as long as she can do, because a world without Camilla will be a very dark world for our king. So, not to bring anything gloomy onto today's subject, but just to spare a thought for our monarch and his consort, because she is extremely crucial to his success. It is wonderful to have official confirmation, and I've been telling you for many, many months that this was always on the cards. She's Queen Camilla. She's Queen Camilla. And this is absolutely standard. Every consort in history has dropped the public style of consort. She remains one, just as the late Elizabeth was Queen Regnant, but no one went around calling her Queen Regnant. It's the same with the Queen Consort and sometimes with the Queen Dowager. She drops that styling and becomes Queen Camilla from the coronation onwards, and that is exactly how it should be. And they have played it so well. It's been seamless in transition, gave everybody this one. Do you see how the coronation is so important? It's important to have that pause between accession and coronation, for everybody to come to terms with what's happened, for folk like me to stop stumbling over the word Prince Charles and keep calling him Prince Charles and get used to calling him the King. I've done that now. I'm totally used to it. I know it's still taking a few people moments and they can't quite accept calling somebody a new queen, but by and large people are getting their heads around it. It needed that moment of pause and reflection, and we've had that now. Now there will be a flurry of activity. Now you will see a seamless show. I'm actually really excited, although I know that things are going to be a little bit more dressed down, a lot less pomp and circumstance in scale. I actually think, trusting Charles's judgment and trusting the judgment of the chap who organised all the proceedings around the Jubilee, who was doing the same this time, the Duke of Norfolk, who is organising this coronation. They played a blinder then. I think they're going to play a blinder now. And I think that the world is going to be treated to a spectacle that may not match in vast scale and numbers, but may actually top the Queen's coronation in terms of its beauty. And that will be a credit to King Charles, his influence, his passions, and of course a reflection of today's society, where a personal touch and a personal hand on proceedings and 70 years to prepare for this moment will help usher in a matchless performance. We are yet to find out how traditional some of the clothing will be and the costume for this coronation, including for the young pages and including for Prince George, but traditionally pages wear a knee-length scarlet coat with gold trimmings and a white satin waistcoat and lace jabot, which is a decorative frill or ruffle around the neck, with white breeches, white stockings and black shoes with buckles. They carry a small ceremonial sword too, so no mucking about. The King marked the start of Holy Week earlier on Sunday at a Palm Sunday service near Highgrove in Gloucestershire, and he was seen wearing this wonderful coat which used to belong to the late Duke of Edinburgh. It was first seen in 1956 actually, and no one's quite sure of its provenance, but it was likely created by Kent Haste and Lacter in Savile Row. a double-breasted camel coat with leather buttons in that sort of football look design, with an exaggerated lapel and a distinctive belt. He was also seen in it in 2005, and isn't it lush and isn't it glorious? And he carried a cross made from the fronds of palm leaves. The President of the United States, Joseph Robinette Biden, has confirmed in a phone call to the King that he will not be attending, and he will be represented by the First Lady, Jilly Biden. This was confirmed by the White House, who said the call underscored the strength of the relationship between our countries and the friendship between our peoples. The President congratulated the King on his upcoming coronation and informed him that First Lady Jill Biden looks forward to attending on behalf of the United States. The President also conveyed his desire to meet with the King in the Kingdom at a future date. Well, there's been quite a lot of commentary in the press regarding this, half saying that, traditionally presidents don't attend coronations, which is rather understandable, knowing some of our history with regards to that, and no president attended for the late Elizabeth. And then there is another faction who are quite critical, including actually people from the United States. For example, Jeff Lord, who served in the White House as Reagan's associate political director, he spoke about the closeness of, for example, Margaret Thatcher and Reagan in that era. And it was a wonderfully politically aligned era for the Kingdom and the States. Don't you feel, my dears? It was wonderful, and it was lovely that they had that cosy relationship. And it's a shame that we haven't seen such a cosy relationship formed between our alliances in the Anglosphere in recent times. Even though they rub along together perfectly fine, there's been a lot of friction with recent presidents, more to do with their administration. During the Trump era, the word on the street is that although there was a convivial relationship between he and Boris Johnson, there was a tempestuous element to it. Of course, Donald Trump was very respectful of the late Elizabeth and really adored her. And I like to imagine that she was rather tickled by him as well. It was something different. But there were clashes between administration, a lot of stalemating going on, which happens. I mean, it happens. But it prevented more of a more cosy relationship with President Biden. Again, very convivial, especially between the members of the royal family. And he's been hosted here and seems to get on very well with everybody. But there's been a lot of friction with regards to our leaving of Brexit and his involvement. He has firm Irish roots. He speaks about how proud he is of his Irish roots, the Republic of Ireland. He's spoken before about how his own mother told him never to bow to the Queen. And I'm not saying this as a criticism. That's the way he was raised. Not everybody wants to bow to a British monarch, so I totally understand it. I'm just relaying certain bits of information to form to understand his persona and his stance on certain issues. I certainly don't expect a president of the United States to curtsy or bow to royalty if they don't feel the want or the need to do so. But some of his priorities or his loyalties, some feel have been misplaced over the past few years. And my personal feeling, having reflected on this, is that although, of course, it is still an honour to have the First Lady attend the coronation, and again, not wanting to put a downer on this particular broadcast, it is no secret to anybody that the Western world, and I am not being theatrical and camp here, well, I always am, but it's true to say that it is in great peril, severe peril, because alliances are being formed all over the world. I don't know if you've read what's going on in Saudi Arabia over the last 48 hours as well. Much to President Biden's chagrin, I can tell you. You might want to look it up. Saudi Arabia, did I say Saudi America? Of course I meant Saudi Arabia. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, forming alliances with China, Russia forming alliances with Russia, Iran developing and becoming extremely close to becoming nuclear. These are not good signs. These are not welcome collaborations within the world. And everything that we have grown to know and love in the Western world, the good things about it, because there's good and bad in all points of the compass. The good things and the freedoms that we've come to take for granted. This is why people like me get a bit vociferous about those who have taken these freedoms and the qualities that we've had, and they want to push on to the next level. They forget how hard won these freedoms and liberties were, following on from our ancestors who fought in the wars, fought all over various empires, including the British Empire, because there are other usurpers that would have come in and taken the place of the British Empire had it not come in. We are stronger together. Everybody knows that. And the United Kingdom, it might be a tiny little dot on the map that once ruled the largest empire the world has ever known in the not too distant past. But it is a very strong and major force within Europe, and our American naughty cousins and our American friends, not particularly those of you that are here in the fruit basket, because we all jive together and love each other, but you know there are factions, and it has to be said, more towards left-leaning or extreme left-leaning, not all of them, but factions of America at the moment that are hell-bent on pulling down everything that England and colonialism and everything we stand for, you know, everything that a certain couple have ushered in, all that kind of criticism, pulling it down, yanking it down. Well, you better beware, my dears, if any of those types. Well, you better beware, because if the kingdom is dragged down and consumed over the next few decades or even years, when these other very, very powerful regimes become superpowers and everything is mashed up geopolitically, you better watch out, my dear, because America will be not too far behind. If the kingdom goes, if Europe goes to other regimes, other interlopers, then you will find yourself rather isolated with no allies, no powerful, strong allies throughout the rest of the world. You know, we need to be each other's support and succour, because we have more in common than we have more indifference. You know, the Anglosphere is a wonderful, sparkling embroidery that envelops the entire globe, and we don't want to see it eroded, do we? We don't want to see it eroded. And that is why I believe that all of our nations require a strong identity, require populations that take pride in their nation and their people and their customs and traditions. Because without that pride, if you only have shame for the goings on, then the population will behave and act as if there is nothing to fight for. Just come in and take it. Just come in. Come in, Russia. Come in, China. Come in, Saudi. Take it. Take it. Take everything we have and that we've achieved, and turn us into your little communist robots. Sophie Edinburgh is here to cheer us up. She was at LEAF, Linking Environment and Farming. Her Royal Highness is an honorary president of LEAF, and she saw work in action. She got involved in high-tech agri-food sessions and spoke with young people about their career aspirations. I love the combination that the dress and the jacket, such a rich colour on that dress, isn't it? Lovely, beautiful. In Shropshire, she visited a new orthopaedic centre, the Headley Court Orthopaedic Centre for Veterans, and she officially opened it and met with staff and patients. This centre is the first of its kind, opened in November of 2022, last year, and provides support for former army men and women who are dealing with physical issues and mental health issues such as PTSD. And she wore a white jacket by Altuzara and tan stilettos, gorgeous. She received a lovely little Easter nosegay there from a very young lady in silver shoes, and she unveiled a plaque with a coy wave. This centre includes treatment suites, examination rooms, clinical rooms and offices that are dedicated to training space. The Princess Royal has been in Wales for a series of engagements, such as the National Coast Watch Institution, who said that they were honoured to welcome the Princess Royal, who is their patron, to the St Donat's Bay station on the seafront at UWC Atlantic. She met on-duty watchkeepers and cadets and received a briefing on the watchkeeping life. These are volunteers, many of these people you see, plucked from the local community, and they monitor the coastline and the sea for any shoreline activities of potential concerns, people cut off by the tide, that kind of thing, or vessels in difficulty. And after the station visit, she was escorted to a reception in Bradenstoke Hall in St Donat's Castle, She graciously unveiled a plaque commemorating the opening of the station, and the cadets formed a guard of honour as she left the castle. She was utterly devastating in that green and red, wasn't she? Devastating. That woman is incredibly royal, our beloved Annie. I'm excited to see what she'll be wearing at the coronation, in fact. She was also in Worcester, paying tribute to fallen soldiers. Yes, she doesn't stop for a moment. She made this quick stop in Norton to dedicate a statue created by the Norton Worcestershire Regiment Group. Hundreds lined Crookbarrow Road to catch a royal glimpse of Annie. She is patron. Yeah, patron. Do you see, my dears? Do you see what I was saying just in the last broadcast, where everybody complains about how much money is spent on various royal effects with regards to the coronation? And they have the right to complain, but it's what I was saying, wasn't it? Do they not bear in mind how many patronages the royal family are involved with over decades, and how they help fundraise and bring attention to these causes? So well exemplified by Sophie Edinburgh, by Anne Royal, and by every member of the royal family. Well, most. As I was saying, she is patron of the Worcestershire and Sherwood Foresters Regimental Association, and she unveiled a plaque, yes, another plaque to be unveiled, by the side of the sentry statue that was installed last year. So there we have it, my dear fruits, my dear basketeers. I do hope that I've helped to whet your appetite for the upcoming coronation, because this is where the countdown begins, my dear. And we're going to have a right royal, rollicking time of it, aren't we, my dear, this coming through April and on to May for a spring coronation surrounded by wildflowers. Get the wildflowers out, my dear. The fruits, the vegetables of the season, the spring greens. Yes, my dear, because that is the aesthetic. We can plunge ourselves into it with all our might, can't we? And feel extremely royal. Some of my viewers tell me that you have started collecting the little twinkly attributes that I love to wear for you. The brooches. Some get some tiaras. Some get a little bit of fanny action going on. All this kind of thing, mate. You love to join in and wear them when you watch the broadcast, and I couldn't be more delighted about it. Well, get that bling together, my dear. You don't have to go shop. You don't have to fork out thousands for these accoutrements, my dear. Shuffle down to Goodwill or the charity shops, as I do for you when I come to you with a tip jar corner. Go thrifting, whatever you got to do, my dear. That's the aristocratic way as well. Make, do and mend. It's very royal. Get something old, tarnished, forgotten about, dusted off the shelf, and see how it sparkles. That is the magic. That is the magic of this alchemical moment. Is part of the magic of royalty. You see, my dear, and that is why I love it, and that's why you love it. Yes, you do. I know you do. So, prepare yourself for a wonderful month ahead, my dears. And I do thank you so very much for sharing the adventure with me and joining me and putting up with me. I will see you on the next broadcast, won't I, my fruit? Remember to come back and see me now, won't you? Leave a wonderful, juicy comment below. Tell me what you're excited about with regards to this coronation. And my tip jar is in the description box, so feel free to hang out there as well. Ta-ra for now. Ta-ta, my dears. Toodaloo and toodle pip.